We are live. Hello, everyone. Sorry for being slightly late. Another call that was running on, and welcome to this exploration of summer and your seven senses. Our bodies are sensory organisms that we get to explore life here on Earth with, and that really changed my whole perspective of bodies. Like, if you really look at that, we've been giving a sensory organism to experience life on Earth with. And then I started to dive into the different senses. So most people know like the five first senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. So those five, that's what we learned in school. That's what, we're familiar with. But in addition to those, there actually are two more senses that science also agrees on exist. One is called vestibular. And vestibular, it's movement, it's our balance, our sense of balance, right? Which gives us information on where our head and our body are in space. So that's also a sense. So you have sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and vestibular movement. And then the last sense, according to science, is proprioception. And proprioception is your body position in relationship to everything else. It's your awareness of where you are in regards to everything around you. So if you look at that, so from the first, we used to have five senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Now we also have vestibular, which is like movement, balance. And then we have proprioception, which is your body position to where everything else is in the world. Now, for me, like, these seven senses are just the beginning. And I know Kelly had a question about that because I sent her these seven senses. And what was it you wanted to ask me?
So I had just something of the echo. But I was fascinated that we had these five senses for so long. And now suddenly they're seven. And I'm like, I wonder how many more there are. Like, it seems to be infinite to me. So I wonder, yeah.
Well, I would say that, so I get so excited when we talk about senses. So I would say that, first of all, my sense is that energy is either an eighth sense, or energy is like underlying all of the senses. Because if you start looking at the senses, touch is so many things. Touch gives us so much information. And I think scientifically, when you look at it, only like 5% of the information that we take in comes from our cognitive thinking. All the other information that we get about the world comes from our senses: our sight, our hearing, our touch, our vestibular placement on Earth, and then also energies, like that whole sense of, I would really say that energies are probably part of all the different senses, like it underlies them. And then there are more senses added all the time. And when people start to explore the senses, what's been discovered in all kinds of different ways is how much we use our senses to communicate. Like, even touch is one of the greatest ways to communicate sympathy. It's compassion. It's like you put a hand on somebody and they know that you're friendly. Like, not just because you put a hand on them, like linearly or transactionally, she puts a hand on me and therefore she's friendly. They know from the touch. They know in the moment that you touch them that there's a sense of kindness. There's a sense of nurturing. If there is, you also know the moment somebody touch you and it's icky. That's when you pull away. Like, the moment somebody touch you, what their intention is towards you and your body. That's how really, really quick our touch that's only touch, right? But you combine all the different senses to get an awareness of the world around you. So for me, it's like you literally use your senses to get an awareness that's way beyond the cognitive. It is an energetic awareness of what's actually going on in your world. And the more you're willing to become aware of that, the more you're willing to actually know that the cognitive, my thinking, is just like a tiny bit of what's actually possible. Now, that means that suddenly we keep thinking that we're experiencing the world through our thinking. But what if we're actually experiencing the whole world through our body and the 7 or 8 or 9 senses that we have? It's a sensory organism. It uses all those senses to experience the world with. And then suddenly the world is so much bigger. It is, you literally have access to so many ways to get information, input, nurturing about the world through your senses that comes to your body, that your body can receive, perceive, and play with. So for me, the fact that we went from 5 to 7 senses, I don't even know when that was, but it's just the beginning of like the multifaceted experience of the world through our senses. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if that actually answers your question, but that's what it awakened when you asked.
It almost makes like want to cry because it reminds me of when we don't communicate with words. We just have this whole universe. So it's very beautiful.
Well, and touch is the very first sense we have. Like we, as babies, that's the first thing we start touching things. You know, you see babies, like they want to touch your face and they want to touch things, and they experience if they're hard, they're cold, they're soft, they're, you know, all those. That's the first thing that we start exploring the world with is our touch. And then we start adding all the other senses, and our senses develop. Like when you're a kid, you mainly, like your taste buds aren't very developed. So you tend to like very simple things like sweet and, you know, like, you know how a child tend not to like shrimps. And then after a while, that could be like their favorite food when they get a little older, and when their taste, their senses of taste gets more refined, more developed, and they start experiencing a whole new, like, again, like I guess a whole symphony of tastes that they can start experience. And it's the same with your, like your sight, your hearing, all of that changes and develops over your life. You add different connotations to it, different context to it, and then you're experiencing it in different ways. And before we go on to the next one thing that always fascinated me too was, so when Columbus came to America, with the ships, the Indians could not see the ships because there was nothing in their cognitive understanding that allowed them to see it. Because even though the ships were there, they've never seen anything like it. So they couldn't translate it into a picture in their cognitive mind. So the ships were there, but there were no picture in their mind. Now that for me means that there's a lot of things we don't see. Because we don't know how to translate it through our sight sense into our head. Sorry, there's a thing sounding here. I'm going to shut it off. Okay. So we already are diving into all the senses. What else would you like to ask around this topic?
So we made the title of summer, and you were saying senses. So kind of like so curious about. You know, you always talk about how you enjoy your home, Sweden in the summer. So I'm like, what is it about the summertime that really makes you so excited?
That's a great question. So if for anyone who's on here and haven't met me, I've been working with Access Consciousness for nearly 15 years, and I work as a facilitator of body classes, art of touch classes, foundation classes, being you classes all over the world. So I travel a lot. I'm not home a lot. And in the winter, that is wonderful. Because in the winter in Scandinavia, it gets very dark, it gets cold. And for me, it's nearly like a sensory deprivation. So there's not like, there's less interaction with the world. it's like a bear going into a cave over the winter and only like going out for 6 hours a day. And the rest of the time, mainly inside, not really, like it's dark outside, less nature. Now, it's not like that for everyone. Some people love winter and they have a total enjoyment of winter sports. It's the time where they actually experience the glitter of the snow, the big horizons of skiing down a hill. So this is not overall, but for me, summer has a very different tone. And summer in Scandinavia is one of the most gloriously, for me, beautiful way of awakening my senses. So summer in Sweden, I live quite north in Sweden. Stockholm is quite north, which means that the sun tends to go down around 11 p.m. and it comes up like 3, 4 in the morning, especially in midsummer. And even when it's down, it's pretty light. So it's a whole different world where the days are very long. There's so much sensory input from nature, from everything outside, from the sun, and people are very awake. They are, when you come from the outside, a lot of people say they smile more. They look at other people in the summer, while in the winter, they're basically looking away. Like if you walk down the street in the winter, everybody's like wearing the same black jacket and looking down. In the summer, there's colors, there's conversations happening, not just by mouth, but by energies exchanging. There's a joy of enjoying the elements of summer. So for me, the summer is the time of the year where all my senses get to come out and play. Walking barefoot on grass, walking barefoot in sand, walking barefoot on cliffs. All of those are like walking barefoot on a dock just about before you jump into the water. All of those are parts of the sensory input that actually, I would say, allows my energetic space to grow. And if you want to be scientific, it probably also allows my neuroplasticity to grow too, because what they've discovered is that our brains love input. And as long as you give the brain more input, it's actually so plasticity, I think that's the word in English, neuroplasticity, something like that, where it continuously develops. Anytime, it never stops. It's not something like you get too old and then your brain will stop. No, it just keeps going. And for me, it's the same with the energetic spaces and universes I get to play in when I am allowed to have so much sensory input from all the elements of around me. And that comes with light, with the sounds of the forest in the summer, the leaves. I don't know the word for the leaves moving in English. What is that?
Rustling?
Yes, the rustling leaves, the song of the birds. And then you have the sides where you have the sunshine on things that makes it glitter and shine and just come to life. And it smells, everything smells. Like all the strawberries have a very, very distinctive smell with the wild strawberries. Oh, I get so excited. And touch, and you get touched in so many different ways. Once you start opening up, it exponentializes. And once you start having that gratitude for all the different senses that come alive in the summer, then that actually exponentializes continuously as well. So it's like allowing all the different elements of your senses to be received, perceived, acknowledged, and then in that, it actually exponentializes with the gratitude that you have for them. So for me, summer is like a magical adventure of sensory input.
That's so beautiful. And I was going to ask you, I feel like you half answered it. It was about using your senses to create like this magical adventure of your life, like you just started talking about. Was there anything else on that? About we can walk around the world like not really receiving from anything?
Well, I think it's a great question also, since we're on this live where we have access consciousness, like as the platform that we're speaking. So for me, before I started to use the access consciousness tools, I had explored a lot of different modalities, and they had already started to awaken certain parts of me. But one of the main things that happened when I started to play with the access tools was the energetic aspect of being. And that energetic aspect of being comes from a lot of the body processes that we have in access consciousness, starting with bars and then going into like 60 or 70 more body processes. It comes with when you start playing with energies outside the body, like the symphony of possibilities energies. And once it's like when we're born, we are starting to explore this whole symphony of energies of senses that are available to us. But as we grow older and as we kind of try to find where we fit in to this reality, where are our little plug hole where we should fit in, we basically start to shut off a lot of the sensory and energetic input that we have around us. And when you start opening that up, you actually start experiencing your whole life in a different way. Because suddenly your life, there's so much available there that is not about what other people think about you or how you fit in with whatever has been called a success in the world or not a success in the world. You get access to a whole new universe that really comes with the energies of living and all this, actually the willingness to receive the sensory input that gets translated into energies and awareness that you then can use to create your life. For me, I would say that my life would be incredibly much poorer if I wasn't willing to actually receive this. And I would say that that's something I practiced for many years. And every year, every minute, every week, I allow more of it in. It's like there's an infinite amount of senses that can give us information, awareness, and energies. And the more I'm willing to receive, the more it contributes. And that is a practice because we've done a really good job of shutting all of this down. And once we start using these tools and open up, there's a whole world there awaiting to be explored and received.
Cool. Thank you.
That could be a good place. Was there anything else on our?
There was one thing. Interesting. You spoke about having more access to those senses and that being a beautiful exploration. But sometimes, at least for me, I know that being sensitive quite overwhelming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. It's good let's have that before we end too. So yes, because one of the reasons why a lot of us shut our energetic awareness and our sensory awareness, like our sensory, is because there is so much information and there's so much input, like even just hugging somebody. So hugging somebody includes a lot of this, right? So it includes sight because you're actually looking. It includes smell. You're smelling the person. You're getting input from whatever the person smells like. You're touching the person. You're in physical contact with the person. You have a proprioception sense, like how close are they? Are they pulling me? Like you get so much input just from that. And then you have a whole energetic download from touching that person. Like we talked about in the beginning, you will straight away in like a split second, if you're willing, know where they're at in their day, where they're at in relationship to you. Like how many barriers do they have up or down? What do they desire from you? You get aware of their agendas, their no agendas, whatever, like all of that in a simple hug. You get so much information that for a lot of people that are energetically aware, that are sensitive to all our senses, they don't know what to do with that. So they shut it down or they avoid a lot of this sensory input that we can get because they don't know what to do with it. So one of the things that has helped me is just by becoming more aware of what's actually occurring in these interactions with the world. What is actually occurring when I get all this information? Not necessarily cognitively, because a lot of, like we said, like 5% is probably cognitive. The rest is everything else that your body is becoming aware of through the senses. But once you are starting to get aware that not all of this is mine, I'm actually getting information about other people, about other energies, about all the energies around me. You may even get information about what the energy was before you came into a room, like once you move into the room. So there's, before you even have the hug, there's something going on in there. And all of this comes in through your senses and through your energetic awareness. And I would say that when you are very sensitive, one of the key things is actually to start to acknowledge that you are. Like for a while, people talked a lot about highly sensitive persons, right? ASP persons, highly sensitive persons. And I would say that's a lot of people who are energetically aware are highly sensitive persons in that, whatever that definition means. But if you don't go for the definition of a wrongness, what if it's a capacity? So you have this capacity of being highly energetically and highly aware of your senses. You get an enormous amount of information and awareness from that every second of every day. So when you start getting the tools to know what's yours, what not yours, like who does this belong to? It's a key tool in Access that works really well for this, that basically is a question you can ask. And we forget it all the time too, even though we've known that question for a long time when we've done Access. But who does this belong to, or is this mine? Is like the fundamental question when you start exploring your senses and your energetic awareness with your body. Because a lot of the things that we experience as our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are not ours. They're somebody else's. Same thing, a lot of the things we experience in our body is not ours. It belongs to somebody else's body, because our body has senses that actually receives all the information, not just about what the person is thinking, but also about that person's and the person's around you bodies. So these tools for me are a brilliant help to get you to a space where you are empowered to receive even more of all this input and information and joy and whatever it is you desire that actually exists all the time around you. You can lower your barriers and actually start receiving in a different way when you know that you can handle it. So that's where the tools for me a lot of times come in. It doesn't stop you from being sensitive ever, because the sensitivity is your capacity. So all that, everywhere where we made the sensitivity a problem or something that we need to fix or get away from, instead we turn that and go, hey, this is your capacity. This is how acutely aware you are of all the input you get from your senses and all the energies that you're aware of in the world. Now, here are some tools that can actually assist you and give you more space to use them to your advantage, your awareness, and handle it in ease. And all through the different classes I facilitate, this actually goes through as a red thread. It's in Access Consciousness Foundation. It is definitely a lot in the Access Body class, which is one of the classes that are coming up really soon. And a lot of that we also explore in Art of Touch, where we really go into one of the key senses and explore that. And so I would say, what if you could claim and embrace sensitivity as one of your greatest capacities?
Thank you. It's beautiful.
So I think we'll probably end there. And I just wanted to say, if you are listening to this, there are there are so many different ways that you can play even more with this. And there are so many free tools out there. There's a lot of videos out there about who does this belong to, for example, but also about other tools. And you could also come to a class. And I would say the body classes is one of the main classes where you start exploring this, and the Art of Touch classes. So go and find an Access Body class on the website. I have one coming up in Copenhagen if you're in Northern Europe, and that's coming up in 2 weeks. And that actually has a Symphony of Possibilities intro class, right? Introducing the symphony. Is that correct? Or do we have an Art of Touch?
An Art of Touch.
Oh, we even have an Art of Touch introducing. We have an Art of Touch evening class if you just want to come and explore that particular aspect of your senses. You can come to Copenhagen the first weekend of September and explore that. And what else is possible with your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th godzillion senses? Thank you so much, Kelly, for coming on and playing with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kat.